Why, hello everyone. Welcome to another stream, and this episode will be whatever happened to the movie. So we're going to be going over every single adaptation to film or television of Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein. And welcoming today is Albelio from Illinois, and welcome.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh my. So no sooner did I hear the news that they're making another Starship Troopers movie that I decided, hey, let's go over all the Starship Troopers movies and television shows they've made so far and talk about what we're worried about or anticipating about a new Starship Troopers movie that is a complete reboot, has nothing to do with the Paul Verhoeven film, and it's Neil Blomkamp chosen to direct it, actually.
Well, I'm not exactly a big fan of everything Neil Blomkamp's done, but he definitely knows his way around sci-fi, so I'm eager to see how this turns out.
Oh, I see ya. So, without much further ado, we're going to first go to the news. Next week is going to be Trigun Episode 3. Thank you, audience. You voted for it, and that is the most popular option in the poll. Previously, I talked about Nintendo Switch 2. I talked about the cost. I talked about comparisons with the other consoles. And I took a look at what the premier video games were. So I was a little bit off. You want to know how I was off?
How so?
So I anticipated that they would have a new Mario Kart game to start it, but it's going to be a Mario Adventure, but it turns out it's going to be a Mario Kart and a Donkey Kong Country game to start Nintendo Switch. too.
Oh yeah, Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Yep. So
Did you happen to catch the news? It just popped up on my Twitter feed that apparently after everyone got done complaining about Nintendo and how Nintendo was just the worst company ever because, people are just in denial at this point. Microsoft just jacked the prices on everything for the Xbox. Like their games are now going to be like $80. The Xbox One or Xbox X One S or whatever is going to be like $600.
Oh, I'm not surprised. I even looked at the console right there, and I just pointed out that look, like the newest Xbox is, unless you want a special version, which is obviously more expensive, a special edition of the console where you can actually put in previous Xbox discs. It's a whole lot of money for you being on the next Xbox to be charged for a internet download only console. Some of the games are actually going to be streamed from the cloud. That's how it's going to be.
Good Lord.
But
yeah, I'm going to stick with Nintendo on this one.
Yeah. But the thing that I do like about Nintendo, even on the Switch that I have right now, because I was a late bloomer, like I said before, getting the first generation of Switch, is that I get complete games. Even though some of these games are it's essentially a key card to an online download, I'm still getting the whole game with that card that I put on my Switch.
Mm.
That and my I'm buying emulated Nintendo games from the store, which don't take up much of the 25 gigabytes of base hard drive, but you can get an SD card to make it 10 times that much. But that's about it. But I'm not surprised Microsoft is doing that.
Yeah, and because of the overwhelmingly positive I suppose support that Nintendo has received despite its overwhelming backlash as well. The PS6 was just announced too for like 2027.
Well, they got to keep up with the competition. You got to remember that Nintendo has this rate where only the PS2 really beats the regular Nintendo console in terms of console units sold. I mean, with Nintendo, they'll be disappointed if it doesn't sell more than 100 million console units for a generation. That's how they are.
Mm.
But yeah, there's so much. But before I get lost, we're gonna go back to Starship Troopers.
Yes.
So, science fiction novel by Robert A. Heinlein, published in 1959. It's narrated in the first person by Juan, or Johnny Rico, as he's nicknamed. I like Johnny better, but then again, maybe I'm thinking too much like one of the Roughnecks. He's an enlisted member of the military force known as the Mobile Infantry, serving the future Terran Federation. Featured fashion and light, interstellar travel, and battles with a technological peer alien race. So the novel gets a little weird because even though the aliens are insectoid, they wear spaceships and carry guns.
They wear spaceships.
They wear space suits and carry guns. They have armor suits and carry guns.
I gotcha. Yeah, I don't know really much at all about the novel. I know the only real thing I know is that the movie is a substantial departure from the book.
It is. They even made it. We're going to go into the television series, which comes a lot closer. And even for that, the director of the live action movie only signed up as a producer for that. So the actual director for the Roughnecks animated television series, in spite of it being PG material, it is closer to the novel, with a few exceptions. But we'll get back to it. And yes, Starship Troopers involves, similar to say Imperial Space Marines from Warhammer or Spartans from Halo. They wear power armor suits with a contained environment so they can survive in hostile atmospheres or even in the vacuum of outer space while in these power armor suits.
Yeah, and it's not a hot take to say that Warhammer stole its IP from like literally everything.
Well, I'm going to admit it right here. Starship Troopers is a major inspiration all over the place for video games and movies after this. Just how it goes. I mean, inspiration, you can even come to think of it, StarCraft seems to use a lot of what happened, of what was featured in the Starship Troopers novel as well, with the Terrans. I mean, it's called Terran. So the novel also explores and involves philosophical discussions about the way the future Terran Federation is governed, such as the saying that also gets used in Helldivers, interesting enough, service guarantees citizenship.
Yeah, very utilitarian, and it's something I actually agree with more and more.
Well, enough. I mean, the interesting part of what Heinlein came up with saying this is that at some point before the present in the novel, which is the future, the governments had a massive failure. Civilization seemed to fail with their governments, so they came up with a new system. So there is no draft, but it's just like you would not have a right to vote if you didn't join the military. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and there's a distinction that has to be made too, because so many people always get this argument wrong when they argue that the bugs did nothing wrong. It's
a lot of things.
Well, yeah, there's all over it, sure. But just because you cannot vote doesn't mean that you aren't able to do anything in the society. It's like, if you want to be a part of the main decision making, you have to serve. And it's something I agree with more and more, as I said, because I don't understand why it is that people who wouldn't put their, it's like that. It's like when people say, it's like, like a politician says, we're going to send your sons and daughters to my war. And it's like, okay, you first. It's like, yeah, that politician should absolutely go, and service guaranteed citizenship is very much a interesting idea. So yeah, I'm glad the movie actually kept that line and didn't betray what it seems to be portrayed as in the book.
Right. And I just find it interesting that the Helldivers games have that too.
Helldivers cracks me up. I've never played it, but I watch all the videos of people they're just killing each other, not even the enemy.
Yeah.
They keep dropping all the ordnance on each other.
Right. Oh, definitely. It's and before my brother trolls us in the comments, I was just gonna say we had a fun time watching Roughnecks, because they played it. First they played it on the rather obscure BKN, but then they played it on the Sci-Fi. And for that brief little bit where our parents actually decided to have cable before they said forget it, we watched part of it, of the Roughnecks series if she could, on Sci-Fi, because they replayed it again.
I remember the old commercial or the old commercial trailer ad and whatnot for Roughnecks on Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
Yes, that was one place where it was. But before I get too distracted, we'll get back to Roughnecks. Trust me about that one. Yeah. This is the first time it was outside of the novel in television. So Bandai Entertainment was the first one to have the right to Starship Troopers for film and television. So, and the animation studio, besides Bandai doing the distribution, was Sunrise Studios. So 1988, and I don't know. I'll actually put a link up there so we can. So so I don't risk serious copyright issues, and other people can watch the video on YouTube as well for, for Bandai Starship Troopers. I'll find that right now.
Yeah, I didn't know that this anime existed. I knew
I
about
did
Roughnecks because that came out right after, shortly after the movie. And
right.
so to see this is interesting.
Oh yes. I'm going to warn you. You know, it's not good. Let's just say feature film animation quality. Let's just put it that
Sure,
way. It's
sure.
it's television animation film quantity.
Yeah, this is like 88 Japan, so this is
I mean, I'm just saying people might expect it to be like Fist of the North Star, Akira. No, it's not that kind of animation quality.
yeah, no. That's fine.
Oh, this gets funny. My brother put my Chaos. You've been clipping from this series. How dare you? So I'll send it to you in the chat. So now I've got it. All right, I'll get to the link. We can watch it there to not cause any copyright issues.
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Yeah. Gotta love that. Gotta love that big wide, scan line opening.
Yeah,
Very 80s.
I like it. Reminds me of Tron.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Right, Heinlein died.
He died 3 months before the
Yeah.
first episode aired on television. That's how sad it is.
Oh, that's how close it was. Oh, I bet it
Yeah,
was a few years prior.
yeah. He was an old man by the time this
Old
finally
fuck.
came to film. So he missed any bastardization potentially of his novel. Or he was unfortunate enough not to see what people would imagine and putting it to screen.
Yeah, this is definitely this is definitely that old this is that
It's like
mid to late
Transformers.
80s style. Yeah, Transformers or early uh oh man, what's that series? Kashawn, Robot Hunter.
Yeah.
Not the mini series from the 90s, but this is definitely
Oh, I've only
this
seen the
is
'90s version of that.
oh yeah, no. There was an original 70s art style. This is what it looks like more.
Yeah, as you can obviously see, they've got the ape suits, like almost similar to Gundam. But I found out when I was reading that these suit designs are actually from a Japanese manga where they illustrated it in for Starship Troopers in Japan.
Mhm.
So they did their own comic book version of Starship Troopers before this happened. I kind of like how they have those little tripod artilleries traveling with them.
Yeah, yeah. Where did he stick on the dude's head?
Oh, he's got the launcher on his shoulder is a mini nuclear warhead launcher.
No, what's the that uh
That's his designator for his unit. He has this. The stripe is the designator for what unit he's in, and the top one is I think it's a scanner for him to
no,
detect what's going
the
on.
pink goop that they're being attacked with.
Oh, so this was the first case. So you can't exactly blame the live action movie. This is the first case of them making them primitive insect aliens, versus what they had in the novel where the bugs had suits and guns.
Mm-hmm.
But it leads me to wonder if that's what Neil Bloomkamp would do, because that would definitely set it aside from what you saw in 1997.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So they show the Starship Troopers title and they show the Japanese Starship Troopers title right in front of it briefly.
Uh-huh.
So this is hard to hunt down. Thankfully, people have preserved this on the internet. We can go back to the studio now.
Yeah,
They preserved this on the internet, but this thing is basically, only officially on a VHS box set, other than it being aired on television. So it's hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a brief time before Sony got the rights to Starship Troopers after this. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that was definitely interesting.
Yeah. So it ran from it was pretty short. It ran from October 25th, 1988 until December 17th, 1988. That is, like I said before, design of the power armor suits had been used previously in a Japanese manga adaptation of Starship Troopers published from 1981 until 1983. So I'm going to try and hunt that down and see if there's any pictures people have of the Starship Troopers manga sometime after this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the one we all know. Starship Troopers, Casper Van Dien as Johnny Rico. It changes it because Rico's supposed to be from the Philippines. He's not from Argentina. His mom and his sister were visiting Argentina on a vacation when they got blown up.
It's been so long since I've watched Starship Troopers. Like I forgot some of these details.
Yeah, so they changed a few things. Like Johnny Rico's from Argentina in this one. He's originally from the Philippines. So I'm sorry, I wrote this in very small text.
All good.
So after Bandai Entertainment aired Starship Troopers, early stages of a film script are in the works by Edward Neumeier in 1991, named Bug Hunt at Outpost 7. John Davison at TriStar Pictures asked to change the story. TriStar Pictures being Columbia Pictures, Sony, you know who they are now. Asked to change the story to Starship Troopers after reading the novel by Robert Heinlein, hoping for the name recognition of the science fiction novel to sell the film. The film was directed by Paul Verhoeven, previously known for directing RoboCop and Total Recall. The film was released to disappointing reviews by critics and had a disappointment at the box office. There was 121 million gross versus a 110 million production budget. Given all the miniature starship and alien special effects, I kind of understand how it could be that expensive.
Oh yeah, and the effects for the vast majority of those effects actually hold up even to today. So
it's funny. Did you watch behind the scenes?
Oh yeah, I've seen a bunch of them.
How the guy used a baseball bat and hit a pumpkin with a baseball bat to get the sound of a bug getting shot.
Yeah, this was with the exception of what was it, like Waterworld? I think this was this was at the time one of the biggest movies ever made, like budget wise.
Oh yeah, back then it was one of the most expensive ones at the time.
We make movies that cost more than this on the regular and they bomb.
Oh yeah. I mean, one part is that obviously certain costs have changed. I mean, I guess it's interesting but the big thing that really irritates me is how they rush it, reshoot it, and redo the special effects. And like rendering CGI takes time. Have you ever have you used Lightwave or Maya?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I have. It's worth at least just playing, having a brief experience. But when your CGI renders with Lightwave or Maya, it has to do it with multiple rendering layers to get the details right. And when you watch some of these movies where they've done all those reshoots, you can see that they didn't render all the layers when they did the CGI part.
Mhm.
So it gets disappointing because they rushed it so they get this incomplete rendering with the CGI. And with today's, it can be decent, is what I'm going to say. Decent.
Mhm.
I was thinking of talking about later films like Alita Battle Angel or Avatar and just show how they did a good job with the special effects in those ones versus
Yeah.
others. But I mean, I found out later that with Alita Battle Angel, I thought it was just like partial CGI, but I found out later it's just the actress doing motion capture and she's completely rendered in CGI over wherever she does the motions. It's that
Mhm.
crazy. Like I thought the clothes were real for a second, but I guess not.
Yeah, it's weird how they decided to go about and doing that, but when Rodriguez has an idea in his head, he tends to just go with it.
Yeah, he definitely does. Definitely does. So now we're at Roughnecks, the Starship Troopers Chronicles, and I'm putting this as separate because it's very different from the film. So after the release of the 1997 TriStar film, they also agreed to do a separate animated adaptation, and this is the one we all know.
Mhm.
So this is Roughnecks, the Starship Troopers Chronicles. Roughnecks has a number of voice actors. I think it's crazy how I think some of these voice actors did a great job at making their voices sound different. Uh, Again, it takes away the first person narrative from Johnny Rico, and instead you have the guy in the middle of this bottom one, Corporal Higgins. You
Okay.
hear he's the one who's doing the main narration for what's going on because he's reporting the events of the war for the news.
Mhm.
But yeah, I enjoyed parts of it. Um, it doesn't do the whole Earth gets nuked as much. It glosses over it. It goes into we had their first battle with the aliens on Pluto. And of course, as you can see, they have the sealed power suits in this one, unlike unlike military surplus outfits in the live action movie.
Mhm. The armor in that bottom picture actually looks very well. Actually, in both realistically, they both look like the power armor from Fallout.
They do, I think they do. I mean, in the Starship Troopers novel, you kind of would need the power armor though, because you need a kind of sealed suit on some of these planets where the atmosphere and other aspects of the planets are hostile to you, so you need to kind of be sealed off from that.
So originally on BKN, huh? Not sci-fi.
Right, but we caught my brother and I caught it when it was when they re-aired it on Sci-Fi,
Okay.
so that's how we saw it. Because it wasn't on exactly a good time for us on BKN because we were doing other stuff on Friday evenings, like
Sure.
watching actual movies, not television shows. More or
Wow, this
less.
came out okay, so 99. Interesting.
Yeah, 99. And there's some things that they did use from the model. They did use the drop pod sequence, which was also 1988. They
Mhm.
also had the alien race called the Skinnies, which was in the novel. Now, the one thing I think would be funny is if they would actually ever do that moment from the novel where the Flores is a man, not a woman like the thing, and Rico tries to pull him because he's been shot, and then a sniper bullet blows his brains out when he's trying to save him, so he dies anyway.
Okay.
That was one of the most brutal moments in the novel. I wonder if Neil Bloomkamp would think of doing that. I mean, they did have someone get shot in the head, but that was a training accident in the live action movie.
It was still well executed.
Oh yeah, I do like the training accident and the discipline after that for its own reason. This is, it's satirical, but oh, having Flores die like the novel, that's just I don't know. It was brutal in its own way. So this wasn't finished. It was canceled partway through Homefront, which is when they're fighting on Earth in the year 2000.
Really, the aliens get to Earth?
Yes.
Okay.
And they also had Carl Jenkins in this one. He was in the live action where he was played by Neil Patrick Harris, but they had the whole idea of, okay, you have a telepathic specialist on your team in this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. I don't want to get lost for too long before we go into the direct to video sequels.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, none of the movies post one held up at all. Especially two.
Oh my! I mean, there was well, there were some funny things that people did to poke fun of it on YouTube, and I remember those ones.
Mm. Yeah. So two being the crew of this small outpost are trapped in that facility.
Yes.
They're all starting to get changed one by one because they're, you've got the bugs will put that larva into you and then they change you over time.
Yeah.
And it's such a low budget, bank on the name kind of movie, and I feel like they changed probably what the story was originally supposed to be, because it's such a departure from like what Starship Troopers is.
Right. I mean, Starship Troopers is a first person narration by Rico.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a change. They're just trying to get something off of what they did. I mean, for an R-rated movie, it was a good box office, but their budget was incredibly high for that time for the first film.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've probably seen the video for "It's a Good Day to Die" when you know the reasons why. That's the one famous song from Starship Troopers 3 that's probably had more views than the Starship Troopers 3 had rentals.
Yeah, and 3 actually brought in the power suits.
Yeah, it did finally. That's why they called it Marauder, because Marauder was the battle mech.
Yeah,
but yeah,
at least they brought back Casper Van Dien.
Yeah, at least they did. Yeah, I mean, I could do a whole new video later on about like why do you sympathize with them. And I'm even going to say, like, in the novel, the bugs, even if they're bugs, they wore spacesuits and they carried guns, just like humans did. So they're even less sympathetic in the novel, or more sympathetic, depending on how you think of it, because they have comparable technology to us in the novel. So that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, the argument's always about how the bugs did nothing wrong and they were just existing, and then we attacked them, and it's like that's literally not what happens. The bugs we were in active war with the bugs, and the bugs attacked Earth.
Right. And I
Like,
mean, even if they're, and that argument primarily uses the idea that they're animals. Okay, fine, they're animals. But sometimes animals can be dangerous to humans. And there's times where I would, you know, if I had to put down a rabid animal, I'd do it because it's bad for the animal to suffer like that, and they're dangerous to humans at the same time.
mhm.
Thankfully,
And
rabies is really uncommon nowadays, but
yeah,
when it was more common, it was bad. Rabies is fatal.
yeah, and let's not forget the fact that they threw a giant meteor at Earth and wiped out the whole, like the whole of Argentina,
It was Buenos
Buenos
Aires, the
Aires.
capital of Argentina, plus
Yeah,
miles in every direction.
yeah.
A
So
huge
it's like
crater.
you don't just be like, oh well, they're just a bunch of bugs that don't know what they're doing. Tee hee. It's like no, like it was an act of war. They launched a nuke, as it were. Why wouldn't we want to fight them? Like it's so stupid. The arguments that people make about Starship Troopers are
I
always
mean, I
so
feel
gross.
that if a lot of these people had to live in the, 100 years ago, where you have to literally cut down the trees, cut down the weeds, or they will grow over you, literally. I wish
Yes.
some people had to live in that kind of situation, you know, because if you don't fight nature, nature can win.
Mhm.
But going back to the novel, which is what I hope, if they're going to do something different with the novel, with the new movie, they might as well give the bugs guns and power armor suits like the novel.
Yep.
But no, this is when they finally decided, okay, let's switch to animation. Um,
Okay.
this is around the time where they were doing. You remember how we talked about the Halo animated anthology, Halo
Yeah.
Legends?
Yeah.
So Sony says Microsoft is coming out with Halo Legends animated, and Sony, being Sony, came out with their own with Starship Troopers animation. So the first one was 2012. Um, they finally, the guy with the eye patch is Rico, which is interesting to me because just like how John Razak, the lieutenant he had, lost an arm, he lost an eye.
Hmm. Okay.
Kind of a legacy, if you know what I mean. But this one, I feel it's animated, but it does a better job of what the direct to video live action Starship Troopers 2 actually did.
Hmm.
Because they used the CGI animation to show them fighting with their power armor suits out in the vacuum of space or around on the asteroid, trying to fight aliens on the big asteroid Ceres, which is, if I remember correctly, that's 600. That's hundreds of miles or 600 kilometers in its diameter. So it's a big asteroid. Not as big as say like the moon, but it's huge enough that you could be searching around on there for the enemy, and they could be taking it over the asteroid as well. It's some space to fight on. Not to mention the interior of Ceres as well.
Hmm.
So it does
Oh,
it. It does what it does it better, thanks to
gotcha.
animation.
And Casper Van Dien isn't Rico here, but he comes back in the next movie.
Yes, the next one he does the voice part.
Hmm. Okay.
But like I
It's funny
said,
how
this
we
is
keep following Rico like throughout all of these, and he just looks. I'm pretty sure the guy who directed this is a big fan of Metal Gear because I just see Snake in this picture.
Metal Gear Solid. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, he does look a lot like Snake. Um, again, Metal Gears became a PlayStation franchise, starting with Metal Gear Solid.
Hmm.
So that could be part of it. I mean, this is a Sony production after all. So, three animation studios: Sola Digital Arts, Stage Six Films, and Lucid Pictures all work together. Those three studios work together on this. But
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, didn't know this even existed.
I didn't either until about 3 weeks ago when I first heard the news. So I just went along and said, okay, what are all the film adaptations of Starship Troopers that were ever made? And this one showed up.
Okay.
So this is 2017. They did another shot in the animated Starship Troopers, and this is Traitor of Mars.
I actually think I've heard of this one before.
Probably. They have the whole thing on the whole video on YouTube. I don't know if it's still showing as a free video. It was when I came across it. It was at the time. But yeah, they brought back the voices. They brought back Casper and Dina Meyer for voices. Dina Meyer being a hallucination of Dizzy Flores from the live action movie. Obviously, Private Flores, as I said before, the novel was a man, and he got shot by a sniper. So basically, Johnny Rico tried to save his fellow trooper, but he died anyway. The sniper took him out.
Okay, I was wondering why it said like Dizzy is in the movie. I was like, wait, how? She's long since dead.
Yeah, he's hallucinating, which is kind of sad. But I felt that I felt that kind of worked in a way to make you as an audience feel a little bit immersed in the kind of suffering and struggles Rico is having.
Well, you would imagine after what, however many decades this dude's been in the canon at this point, has been fighting the bugs, you'd think he'd start to crack at some point.
Yeah. Wait. So Chaos, like, you gotta read Starship Troopers. I had that book. You have no excuse. Just ask me for it later, brother. But no, Dizzy was a man in the novel. He died from a sniper shot in the first chapter, in the opening battle sequence. So, like, the novel doesn't tell the story in a linear way, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about what we're worried or hopeful about in the film. But the novel goes around with a little pretext from Rico as the narrator as to when each of these scenes is happening. So sometimes it's Rico at the academy, sometimes it's scenes from when he's in the war, and so on. But yeah, so Dizzy was a man. He was one of his fellow troopers in his unit. Rico tried to get him because he was down, and when he's trying to drag him away, a sniper hit him in the head, so he died anyways. And it's funny because I realized that almost the same thing happened in Halo Reach, and I'm wondering how much the makers of Halo Reach were familiar with Starship Troopers, the novel.
It definitely seems like over the course of time, just like the Jurassic series, they would pull ideas from the novel, but twist it into something that would fit in what people recognize as the series.
Yeah, it sounds about right. I mean, like Starship Troopers 3 Marauders, and they finally made power armor suits in Battle Mech.
Yeah, exactly. And the battle mechs actually looked a lot like
Imperial Dreadnoughts
they look like they look like Warhammers from the BattleTech series.
Oh, yeah, I think they do. I think they do. Oh, I've been dreading this. So this is where we talk about the upcoming reboot with Neil Bloomkamp directing. So first of all, I found out about a few days later that they're also simultaneously making a Helldivers movie while they're making Starship Troopers. Yeah, they're trying to cash in on a video game craze.
I hate that I called that after the superhero genre basically went out of business, that the video game adaptations were going to be the next big thing, and they just haven't stopped.
I didn't want to believe it at first, but when I finally saw how well Super Mario Brothers did and how Detective Pikachu and Sonic did enough to be marginally successful, I started figuring it might be a trend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so saying that Helldivers is coming when they've got, Castlevania just got done being finished. You have DMC, Tomb Raider.
They're
It's
making live action Legend of Zelda in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, and their Mortal Kombat 2 is coming out. Like this is the next like major thing. Is we're going back to video game adaptations that have been tried for decades and basically never actually properly good, unfortunately.
Right. I mean, I would say that at least with Super Mario Brothers, that's likely because it's such a well recognized IP.
Agreed.
But
All right, so Neil Blomkamp's making the reboot.
you're right. He's the director. He wants to go into talking about the systems of the Terran Federation and how it's a cautionary tale. Okay. Don't get distracted on that part too much. I mean,
Yeah,
the novel has discussions about whether or not it's a good way to go, but you got to put in mind it's a novel, and putting it into a 2 hour movie or extending the movie to 3 hours might not be something you'd want to do unless you're doing multiple films. But I don't know.
well, it when the not that I want to necessarily skip to the second to last point there, but this definitely comes off as an immediate concern to me because if they are going to propose certain ideas as real genuine concerns, then that tells me that they're going to do the same thing that Paul Verhoeven tried but failed at, which is to present the Federation as some sort of, you know, dystopian dictatorship or some crap, and that it again, it's just it completely misses the point of what a utilitarian society is.
Right. I mean, the Federation, at least in the context of the novel, the governance of, say, the 20th century failed. That's why you are where you are with the Federation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not it's like it's something that in the context of the story, it's not avoidable. I mean, it's just something you can't really get too distracted on. I mean, the novel takes time at points to talk about, okay, whether how does this work? Was it the right or the wrong thing? And even Rico's father was like, I don't care if you don't vote. You don't need to go into this. We don't need to have my son and my daughter be in danger of getting killed in a war when you
Hmm.
can be productive, you can go to school, you can become a businessman here on Earth. Why? The only thing that really changes his father's mind is his wife and his daughter are both dead. So it's like, what point do I have other than to fight?
Yeah.
So yes, his father signs up as well.
Mm. Oh, okay.
But I don't know. I could further talk about maybe his father still wasn't right, even though his family was essentially victimized by the nuking Buenos Aires, Argentina. But
Yeah. Well, I I have my concerns. Obviously, these are concerns based on just the concept that they're talking about. That doesn't even mean that this is necessarily what they're going to do. So I could be completely wrong. I hope I'm completely wrong.
right,
Um, but with everything that Blomkamp has done before, it's like Elysium, where
yeah,
it
that was
was,
heavy-handed.
yeah, exactly. Elysium was heavy-handed. Even District 9 was pretty rough with some of what it tried to portray, and I worry about what they're going to do because sci-fi works best when it tries to tackle the bigger concepts in an
Yeah,
interesting way.
I agree.
But if you're just going to beat somebody over the head with an idea, then you're not exactly like you're creating a disconnect, because the idea should be tackled through the actions of the movie while
Or
the
the
idea is presented.
characters.
I mean, Jurassic Park is a good example of this. Total Recall is a good example of this.
Yeah,
Minority Report, I think it is the one where
right,
they're arresting people before they actually commit
right.
crimes. I
They
think is
did they did
something
the
like that.
film with Tom Cruise, and I did
Yeah.
enjoy that film for what it was. And I really regret watching the remake, the 2012. I rented the 2012 remake of Total Recall, and I regret doing that because I finally watched the 1991, and even though it's Arnold with plenty of one-liners, it at least
Mhm.
gets somewhat thought-provoking in many elements, such as what you think you lived, it's all a lie, or is this even real? It worked better in the 1991 movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot
I
of it, and the
Go ahead.
lens in Starship Troopers that you look at what that you experience the Federation through is Rico and his father.
Mhm.
I mean, it's interesting how initially Rico's father is just like, I don't want you to sign up for the military. We don't have any stake in this war. And, you know, I sometimes think about what would I do if I were in the Federation on Earth.
Mhm.
Would you sign up even if because that gave you the right to
Uh,
vote?
for a probably because I would want to be able to have the right to vote.
Yeah. I just find it interesting that it's not an actual draft. It's just that you choose to go or you choose to not go.
Mhm.
And I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, it's something that in today's world they wouldn't want to do for a variety of reasons.
agreed. But I think that's also part of the big problem for why so many people misunderstand the movie from '97 is because Verhoeven he made Starship Troopers to directly mock, like fascism and dictatorships and yada yada yada.
Right, and
But he,
corporations too.
yeah, he tried to mock all of these things, but he did such a poor job because he doesn't actually understand what he was trying to mock. If he did, it wouldn't have been so highly contested, and people like myself wouldn't be like, "Hold on, you actually proposed very good ideas, or at least ideas worth considering."
I
Like,
feel he did a. I mean, I feel he did a better job with the same kind of satire in RoboCop.
yeah, RoboCop was a way better satire because
I
it
mean,
actually mocked.
the memes like tell you like show you like the worst case scenario of how I mean omni consumer products. That name
Yeah,
alone
it's
that
in the
tells
name.
you it bleeds dystopia right there.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, right.
Or just how Ed 209 just annihilates the dude, and then the people are like, all
He
right,
killed
back to the drawing
Kenny.
board.
It's funny because that's probably where South Park got the idea of Kenny because the guy who got shot by Ed 209 was Kenny.
Oh, hilarious. That's so funny. Ed 209 killed Kenny. But yeah, like that, it was RoboCop was a far better satire because it actually mocked the idea, and not just the idea at the consumer level, but also at the corporate level, because they don't care about what happens to anyone else. And when you get to everything else, it's like service guarantees citizenship. Well, yeah, like Rico's family, it's like the crux of the argument ignores that Rico's family are multimillionaires.
Right.
Like they're super wealthy, and successful entrepreneurs who are just in Buenos Aires. It's not
Well,
like
they
they were
visited
stopped.
Buenos Aires, and I hope this goes. What they say they want to have Rico be Filipino again, but we'll see.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not necessarily sure that's the best thing, but they did do that. They did show him in the Philippines in the animated film by Bandai, animated miniseries by Bandai, 1988. Also, Karma. I also have to say this is totally off subject, but I think Carmen Ibanez looks well. It's great animated or live action.
Carmen, gotcha.
Carmencita Ibanez.
Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know how it's gonna go. I wonder what they're gonna do. I have my concerns because it's Blomkamp.
Yeah, and also they might the fact that they're working on Helldivers at the same time. If one comes before the other, it might, or in close proximity for release dates, one might take a little fire from the other because they're both essentially sci-fi soldiers in power armor killing, insect-like aliens.
Yeah, it's like what Bugs Life and Ants did way back then. Hey, Alexander.
How you doing, Alex? But yeah, I mean that's one thing I'm wondering is are the release dates going to be close together for the Helldivers movie and for this, or who knows? Helldivers might get canceled. We don't know. This Starship Troopers might actually not make it all the way to fruition. We don't know. I mean, it's not free to cancel though, so I mean, they'd have to have a good. What do you say? The loss the loss is justifiable in order to do a cancellation of one or the other, or maybe they'll won't cancel either one.
Yeah, and because it's like I don't know much about Helldivers 2, but I also have my concerns about that movie specifically because they're probably going to go the route of Super Earth is actually all evil people, because that's what a lot of the backup lore and everything else is like. Oh, Super Earth's actually evil. The robots did nothing wrong. They were just trying to live, and they were created, and we're trying to destroy them. Right. It's just like, please, could we just have straightforward, simple action, please?
Yeah. Alex, his name was Juan, but they nicknamed him Johnny from Boot Camp. All right.
Yep.
yeah, I mentioned that. The sniper killed him, just like in Halo Reach, where a Covenant sniper kills your own teammate and you're trying to save him. Also, it was Lieutenant Carmencita Ibanez as well, but I like the name Carmen, and I do feel that Denise Richards looked great in that role.
Oh yeah.
So this is a little update as to how things are going. Previously, we talked about the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I talked about Switch. But coming up, it's going to be a little fun. We're going to do a live watch party for Trigun Episode 3 and talk about what will the 3D collection for Castlevania Remastered be like.
Was it confirmed?
We gotta be ahead of the curve here.
Oh, okay.
We gotta be ahead of the curve because I found out the thing with Nintendo Switch and some of our things that were ahead of the curve helped because later when the hype finally comes in, we have the live streamer video with those keywords in it.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And I've reached the point where I'm just going to start advertising certain ones that are ahead of the curve, so maybe people can catch on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, would be nice. Would be nice. I'd like to be able to sit down on modern systems and play the play the PS2 games.
Oh yeah, I would like to play it off my PC with Steam. I mean, currently I'm using my PC for streaming and display, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
The Steam version, I want. I know it's not forever, but I feel like it is because I've got games in my Steam library from when I first downloaded Steam in 2012.
Yeah.
But that's what's coming up next. Next week is easy watch party for. We'll provide the link so we can all watch Trigun episode 3 together. And what will the 3D collection of Castlevania be like? So that's it.
Cool.
Welcome everyone for stopping by. See you next Thursday for a little watch party. Same time, same channel.
Yep. I got the reaction from my stream to Predator Killer of Killers coming up today, and then tomorrow I continue with more Doom.
More Doom.
Experiment.
Perhaps I could persuade you to eventually try playing Simon's Destiny Doom mod.
I do need to sit down and try to figure out how to get a hold of that. Is that on Doom and Doom 2, or is that
it's GZ Doom?
I do have
the
to
same mod platform as Brutal Doom, but
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Anyways, see you next week. Same time, same channel. Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.